Good evening, Dhamm friends. We will wait for until gathered some friends. It is time to start, I think. Theruvan Saranai to all Dhamm friends. I think it is time to start. Theruvan Saranai and good evening, Dhamm friends. I am Bhante Dhammalankara from Labunuru Kand Forest Monastery in the central province of in the north central province of Sri Lanka. It is a pleasure to meet you all to talk about and discuss Dhamma, the noble teachings of the Buddha. After the discussion, I will be very happy to answer any of your question. Let's now invite the Devas to join us. Samanta Chakkavalesu Atra Gachantu Devata Saddhammang Munirajas Sunantu Sagga Mokkadang Dhammasavana Kalo Ayang Badanta Dhammasavana Kalo Ayang Badanta Dhammasavana Kalo Ayang Badanta. Let's begin by paying homage to the Samma Sambuddha. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Dear devotees, today I wish to discuss some very important points from Cūḷadhammasamādāna Sutta. It is included in Majjhima. 。 and it is one of my favorite suttas, and that is why I chose this sutta for my sermon today. The Supreme Buddha taught this sutta at the time when he was residing at Jetavanaramaya, at the city of Savatthi. It begins like this: thus have I heard. Chattarimani bhikkhave Dhammasamādānāni. Bhikkhus, there are 4 different practices in this world. Katamani chattari. What are those 4 practices? Buddha started. Bhikkhus, there are 4 practices, 4 different practices in this world, and what are those different practices? First one is, it begins like this. It brings pleasure in the present and brings pain in the future. The first practice, it brings pleasure in the present and brings pain in the future. The second one is, it brings pain in the present as well as in the future. The third one is, it brings pain in the present and brings pleasure in the future. Fourth one is, it brings pleasure both present as well as in the future. These are the 4 practices or conduct which the Buddha has explained in this sutta. First, the Buddha mentioned these 4 practices and then went on explaining each practice separately. Now, what is the practice in which you find? Now let's discuss what is the practice in which you find pleasure in the present and pain in the future. This is how Buddha explained it. Bhikkhus, there were some Sramanas and Brahmans in this world who had the view that there was nothing wrong in pursuing sensual pleasure. With that view, they blame the teachers who were preaching on the futility and the ill effect of indulging in sensual pleasure. Saying so, they went on indulging fivefold sensual pleasure as much as they liked. As the time passed, their bodies became feeble. They began to suffer from various forms of illnesses and ailments. As the result, they were subject to numerous types of sufferings and pains. When they were going through these harsh sufferings, they realized what the other teachers and scholars had said about sensual pleasure was true. So, dear Dhamma friend, the Buddha explained this is the practice that you find pleasure in the present and pain in the future. The Buddha asked bhikkhus, what is the practice? Buddha asked, what is the practice that you find? What is the practice that brings pain in the present as well as in the future? There were some Samanas and Brahmins in this world. They did not have proper understanding. They did not have proper understanding of Dhamma. They did not associate proper teachers, spiritual teachers, and noble teachers with the hope of achieving liberation or attain Nibbana. They began to observe many different types of vain practices. What are those practices? What does mean that? What does that mean? Some stayed naked without clothes. Some did not practice personal hygiene. They practiced dirty. Some ate only a spoonful of rice per day. Some ate a spoonful of rice per 2 days. Some had eaten for 3 days, and some had it once a week. They had and some lived like a god. Some lived like a dog. Some lived like a bull to achieve liberation, to achieve Nibbana. They wanted to achieve Nibbana. They wanted to realize, they wanted to achieve liberation, but they did not have real proper guidance. they practice these practices, and some lit 4 burning piles around them and stayed in the middle in the hot sun. These are the practices. In these ways, they practice self-mortification by subjecting the body to deep physical pains. However, none of these practices help them to achieve the sublime state of mind. Therefore, they were unhappy because of they could not attain that sublime state of mind, that liberation. So, these practices brought only the disappointment within them and aroused raga, desa, and moha. They too ended up their lives in pain, and they have to reborn in awful realm. Dear devotees, dear Dhamma friends, this is the practice that brings pain in the present as well as in the future. Third practice, Buddha taught us the third practice. There are some Sramanas and Brahmans who were born into this world with the qualities of raga, lust, desa, hatred, moha, delusion. But they keep associating with Dhamma friends, spiritual friends, and listening to Dhamma. Although they were born with these three negative qualities, raga, lust, desa, hatred, and moha, delusion, known as three poisons, because of association with spiritual and noble friends, they understood the futility of the sensual pleasure, the ill effect of the indulging in sensual pleasure. Likewise, they find it so hard to maintain morality or high moral conducts. They find it so hard to maintain monkhood because they had the three negative qualities. They are hot-tempered. They have by birth. In the Sutta, we can see this in the Pali Canon. Pakatya tibba raga jatiko hoti. Pakatya tibba dosa jatiko hoti. Pakatya tibba moha jatiko hoti. By nature, they have lust. By nature, they have hatred. By nature, they have delusion. It is the higher level of raga, higher level of this, the hot temper. But they kept associating with the noble and spiritual friends, and they able to understand the futility of the sensual pleasure. So they finally, however, they did not give up, did not give up the practicing Dhamma, practicing Bhavana, and they were able to build up their mind. They could experience happiness in the latter part of their life, and they did not reborn in awful realm. Sometime, if they had proper understanding, real understanding of the Four Noble Truth, they able to attain the Nibbana also. This is the third practice that you find pain in the present and pleasure in the future. Now, the Buddha then shows the fourth practice that brings pleasure in the present as well as future. The fourth practice, it brings pleasure in the present as well as in the future. So there are some Samanas and Brahmins in this world who were born with the qualities of free of raga desa moha. There were some people in this world who free of intense raga, desa and moha. That means they did not eradicate raga, desa, moha, lust, hatred, delusion. They did not completely eradicate it, but by nature they have a low level of raga, the lust and the desa, hatred. They are not hot tempered. They are very patient people by nature, because of karma, because of previous birth associating, previous practices. And in this sutta, we can see it is na tibba raga jatiko, na tibba dosa jatiko, na tibba moha jatiko. We can see they are not so many. They are not higher level of raga. They are low level of lust. Because of those qualities, those in absence, they were able to practice bhavana easy and quickly. They were able to practice bhavana. They were able to enter to jhana easily. But when we consider about the three practices, they find very difficult to practice bhavana. But this case, in this part, they were able to practice bhavana easily. Because if someone have the higher level of lust, always their mind image the raga, the lustful thoughts. Because of those thoughts, they can't enter to the jhana. But in this part, explain, they able to enter the jhana easily. And when they experience the jhana or dhyana, they experience rapture and pleasure, both body and the mind. They experience pleasure both in the body and the mind. So, because of those pleasure with the body and the mind, they did not accumulate any kind of unwholesome deed. They experience pleasure and happiness in the mind and the body because of jhana, but they did not accumulate any kind of unwholesome deeds or ailments. So, this is the practice we experience. This is the practice we experience pleasure in the present. And because of this practice, they did not they did not experience any difficulties or hardships in their latter part of life, in their old age of life, because they were able to develop the mind. They were able to protect the mind. So this is the practice that, and they, if they have understanding, they can attain nibbana. They can attain maggapala. And dear Dhamma friend, this is the practice. This is the practice that you find pleasure in the present as well as in the future. That is why I chose this sutta, was because these factors elaborated in this sutta. Now, the most important fact in this sutta is I wanted to discuss the successful in life or bhavana or practicing Dhamma, successful or success in life or practicing bhavana or practicing Dhamma does not depend on whether you experience pleasure or pain in the present. And many believe if you practice Dhamma, you can spend hassle-free, comfortable, happy life. And some other think if you practice Dhamma, you have to go through, you have to face various kinds of hardship, illnesses. It is not correct always. It is differ from person to person. Some people think if we meditate, we should always smiley face. It is not correct always. Now I think you may able to understand. There are some people with the qualities of negative qualities of raga, desha, moha. Because of those qualities, they are difficult to maintain Mahakunt, difficult to practice Dhamma, but they should practice. Now we can understand. It is the pleasure and the pain when we practice Dhamma differ from person to person. The qualities of characters differ from person to person. And there are another point to discuss or keep in mind. We should not compare ourselves with others when we practice Dhamma, when we practice Bhavana. So we should not get disturbed ourselves by considering others do. Dear Dhamma friends, these are the teachings or matters to discuss. I think it is time to answer any question if you have. There is a question. Teruvan Saranai, dear Bhante, what is the main purpose of practicing bhavana or meditation? When we discuss about bhavana, we should understand what we do with the meditation. Meditation means in Pali, bhaveti kusale dhamme asevati vaddati bhavana. Meditation means, bhavana means develop the mind, strengthen the mind, or widen the mind. If we want to do something better, we have to accumulate our power. We have to develop our power. That, for example, if we want to do some work, we should have more power. Likewise, if we want to do something better, we have to strength mind or powerful mind. What we do with the meditation, what we do with the bhavana, we are developing our mind. We are strengthening our mind. And we can't attain Nibbana only the bhavana, only practicing bhavana. Bhavana means developing mind. And Buddha says, after the practicing bhavana, we can develop a samadhi. We can reach a samadhi. I think I explained in this sutta, there are 4 jhana: patama jhana, ditya jhana, tatiya jhana, chatutha jhana, first jhana, second jhana, third jhana. Those are the called samadhi and jhana. After developing, after practicing bhavana, we can build those jhana. We can enter those jhana. Because of those development of the mind, we can see something clearly. Now, for the time being, now present, we can't see everything clearly because our mind is not so powerful. But after the developing the mind, we can see the reality of the life clearly. Now we can't see how our mind in progress, how our mind work. Now we can't see. But if we develop the mind, we can see how our mind works. That is why we should develop the bhavana. If you develop the bhavana, if you practice the bhavana, if you attain the, if you able to build up the bhavana, you can enter to the samadhi. With that jhana, with that samadhi, you can see, you can understand the reality of the life. There are some teachings about the Four Noble Truth or Panchupadana Kandha. We can't understand without the strength mind, without the powerful mind with this teaching. So that is why we are practicing bhavana. So therefore, by listening and understanding facts explained by this sutta, I wish all of you will have the fortune and the blessings to become successful in life and nibbana. We have come now. We have now come to end of the program. Let's do anumodana. First, my teachers, I would like to get the permission to speak the name. Mankadawala Sudassana Thera and Mankadawala Nandaratana Thera and Kotmale Kumar Kasapa Thera, and to Bhante Sudasso and Ayasoma, as well as Bhikkhu Pesala, and all the residents of monastery, as well as all those who participated in the Dhamma talk in person and online, all sentient beings. Ettavacāca ammehi sambhatam punya sampadam sabbe deva anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya. Ettavacāca ammehi tam punya sampadam sabbe bhuta anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya. Ettavacāca ammehi sambhatam punya sampadam sabbe satta anumodantu sabba sampatti. I am now blessing all of you. Abhivadana sila niccang uddha pacayino cattaro dhamma vaddanti ayuvanno sukang balang. To next session. Teruvan Saranai and good night.